right? I hope they turn into these 5 hulks that just comes out and bash down complexity. I know from the other side of the fence, complexity has very emotional players, especially Swindle. He's a guy that likes to feed off crowds and fans and everything, something he does a lot. I think maybe that also influences him negatively, knowing that the home crowd is actually cheering for his enemy, right? So maybe that's a factor in how they play.
Bounty hunter.
All right, nothing? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, over to you, Toba.
All right, well, now that segment is over, going over to Ferg about your thoughts. I mean, we already did all kind of like the analysis. Again, I mean, obviously for this weekend, bit of a small sample size, but we talked about their history too, coming in, obviously complexity. Again, kind of feeling good overall. I mean, in terms of the draft, do you think anything's going to change towards the first part of the draft, like the first half of the draft? Because obviously one last hero, we talked about it when it came to like the last pick. There were some other options.
Let's go and pick some bands, Chobra.
Yeah, you want to just jump right into it? All right, let's just jump right into it. Ben leading the charge for the fans, for the people. You know what we want getting into the draft, and there you go. Called it right on. And, ooh, a bit of a bounty hunter gets through, and it's Mineski this time on there, and they'll snatch it right up. And you guys talked about it. I mean, if they had it in that first game, it could have been a huge difference.
Yeah, it's the difference is that they banned out Nature's Prophet instead, a global hero. At least this way they can kind of know. Bounty Hunter can't be 2 places at once, like Nature's Prophet can. So at least they can deal with it potentially. It's going to be a little scary because it's going to upset things very drastically compared to how the last 2 games went. So, but, you know, a lot of people are picking Bounty Hunter right now, so they can definitely deal with it.
Yeah, it seems like they have a different game plan in mind already with the instant Beastmaster login as well. Pretty good against the Bounty Hunter. Keeps track of the enemy territory, gets the Necromicon with the Invis detection later on in the game. Just an all-round solid opening for them, but worth noticing is the fact that they let the Invoker go and picked up the OD instead. OD wasn't banned in either of the first 2 games, so definitely changing gears entirely.
It's a little bit better mid against Bounty Hunter potentially, because if they go on you, you just banish one and it's just a 1v1 while you run away. So maybe that's the line behind it. It's decent as well dealing with the Invoker. Forge Spirits, that gives you a solution there. Whereas if they get Bounty Hunter plus OD, then that just sounds like, man, that's the easiest kill ever mid.
Yeah, and you have the Beastmaster raw to deal with the Invoker when you need to.
Yeah. I think that's Swindle's best hero. I think they play really well around it, and it's really difficult as a captain to give directions around your team, especially when you play the other heroes that he has been playing. But Beastmaster, you have a lot more information available to you, which they were severely lacking in the last game.
The attack speed aura also synergizes really well with OD as well. Something a lot of people forget, but attack speed on OD, that completely changes the hero, and Beastmaster will provide that.
All right, well, a change of gears for both teams. In for a new show in game number 3. Witch Doctor also now this time being taken out. Didn't like dealing with that in either of those games on complexity side.
The Faceless Void Band is interesting. Unless it's the infamous Wagamama build.
Oh, because Beastmaster is already the offlane. Good point. Yeah, they can't really unless they do.
Some teams run it as position 4 with Iron Talon. It's pretty common.
So I guess they jungle anyways in a lot of cases. So.
Yeah. Also really good versus Invoker with time dilation.
Alright. Tiny. It's a little bit of a throwback to what they used to run a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, so they pick Tiny a lot, but it's not always paired up with the Wisp. So
they actually, in Shanghai especially, they played it a decent amount without the Wisp.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good Wisp game, actually. They just need to get Boots of Travel on one other core, and then they can TP that onto Hawk plus relocate. I mean, their gank potential is decent if they go that way, plus Wisp is great with OD and good with Tiny. Can help maybe cover the OD against the Bounty Hunter as well. Gives them a lot of options.
There we go, just snatching it right away. Had no other intentions going with the Wisp. Classic, now back on the side from Mineski.
I'm not sure I'm a fan of the Doom pickup unless it's the offlane Doom role. Because if he's played like a 4 and a 5 Bounty Hunter, then you suddenly lack some sort of support that binds it all together, I feel.
That's a good point. And someone that can't really, I mean, Bounty Hunter can sacrifice himself and plant a lot of wards, but then he's going to get one shot at some stage.
But I mean, Doom could very well just be played on the offlane. I think that holds a lot of merit still, so I'm praying that that's what they're going to do.
Especially this game, Doom versus Tiny, like if you're sitting equal levels, he's never going to one-shot you. And plus Scorched Earth on top of that, you can easily pressure him better than he can pressure you.
I mean, Tiny's probably mid, right?
Could be, yeah. Is Tiny really better against Invoker than OD is versus Invoker?
It's gonna be Tiny Wisp mid, and then with the Invoker OD farming the safe lane.
Okay, Well,
is what
definitely
I would
off.
assume.
Assuming Doom Lich offlane now. Should be pretty good. Lower attack speed and movement speed of OD. They can definitely dive and pressure him. Especially with the IO being mid, that means that they can definitely exploit the dual offlane. So I actually really like the Lich Doom this game. Lich will be food for Tiny though as the game hits mid game and he gets Blink though.
Depending on how the Lich's game is going, yeah.
True.
Well,
But at some point, like, you're gonna get a Blink on Tiny, and having the HP to be able to survive at that stage is
I think it's okay though, because they're trying to sacrifice a Lich to keep the OD down, right? If they keep the OD down, then Evoker can kite the Tiny, Doom can just keep dooming the OD, and then they can keep their 2 cores in check in the early and in the mid game.
It's a lot of theory crafting.
I mean, that's what we... yeah, that is literally what our jokes are right now.
not a lot of stuns on either team, actually. Lockdown might be a bit of an issue.
A Brute ban coming out, so there's obviously it's a solo lane missing. It is quite interesting. They could have potentially run the Doombringer as a position 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think Queen of Pain is particularly strong against this lineup of complexity because, as you were saying, Tiny with a Blink Dagger, really good for insta-giving. Beastmaster with Raw.
I think they're worried about that kind of an offlane like Brood because their lanes are very static. You know that it's either Tiny or OD, and both of them aren't very survivable to harass in the safe lane.
And the obvious counters only come out when the Necromicon is up on the Beastmaster and Wiz has sufficient level to relocate in on him, assuming someone is already on him. Because normally the Brood can just run away, right, in the webs from relocate.
Alright, well, one last one. Alright, complexity. The last pick that could determine who is to win here. Already all different. What do you think is severely lacking? I mean, we talked a little bit about the launcher for both teams, but would you expect anything that's a little bit high priority for complexity here as a 5th pick?
I honestly think a hero like Tusk is pretty good. Is it bad?
Yeah.
Is it?
Without Roar, they don't have a lot of ways to keep people in one place and allow OD to do the DPS.
I kind of like Spear Breaker or something like that.
That would be pretty cool too. Yeah. I agree.
Super tanky
We see
line.
that hero all too little. And if you like, if game 1 was any indication, this super tankiness is really good later on.
That was not expected. I guess they can do Banish into Arrow, so it's a good lane setup. This may mean...
Yeah, this might actually mean that it's a Tiny Wisp on the safe lane.
Yeah, because doing OD, we're on a safe lane versus a Doom Lich off lane, like you just don't have enough damage to kill either of those heroes. It would never happen. Unless you get like Lich with a creep wave and an arrow, like I just don't see either one of those guys dying. So I think it is more likely it's going to be OD mid. They can pressure Invoker better. He would have Forge Spirit obviously to block the arrow, but so it's going to be a fairly even game, but maybe the goal is kill Bounty instead. That's actually an attainable goal. If they just have a sentry mid, they can see Bounty coming. He dies every time that Moran is within arrow range, if they land the arrow, which they should. It's a good way to stop that pressure, definitely. So I agree. I think it's going to be OD mid. The Marana roam.
So this can go several directions, right? They can still pick a solo off-lane hero like a Bat Rider or a Darkseer, or they can pick a solo safe laner.
I don't like the idea of a Darkseer here. I don't think the Iron Shell doesn't synergize with anybody but Bounty and Doom, and in most cases Bounty can't be there.
Ooh, Slaughter coming out this time for Mineski. Draft is complete. Ben, what are your thoughts as we wrap this up and we see the roster for both teams?
It's going to be really tough dealing with OD and Wisp. I favor Complexity's lineup a little bit more. They also have just a nice mix of disables and good setup for relocate. Very good late game.
All right. What about you two, Purge, Melk? Any further thoughts as we wrap up the rosters?
I'm in complete agreement with Ben, actually. I think Complexity's lineup just is overall stronger. I'm a bit on edge with the Slaughter pick just because I didn't feel like the hero did all that much in game 1, and I'm afraid that it'll just be blown up way too soon, way too fast, especially if it doesn't get a BKB. On the other hand, it's pretty good against the Tiny, right? And a hero that's already struggling, heroes that are already struggling with armor, so and a bit on the fence with it still,
maybe, but all right. Purge, what about you?
Well, I think if Mineski gets ahead, they're going to have a huge advantage because Blink Dagger coming out on Slardar through Track Gold, for example, they're going to have tons of vision. They're going to be able to jump on people and kill them very rapidly, and I think they just need to initiate first. Don't let Tiny combo somebody down at the start of the fight, for example, and try to deal with the OD and delay his advantage until you have huge gold advantage.
Oh yeah, the gang sorry.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but the game is starting and everyone wants to see the game more than hearing you talk about, so we're going to jump right into the game. It is game time. Game number 3 in this best of between these two teams, Mineski versus Complexity.
Indeed, here we have it, ladies and gentlemen, this deciding game, Kappa Blitz. What a series we've had so far, and what a game this was going to be. I mean, the 2 drafts, Mineski taking a bit of a page out of the book that we saw Complexity bring in game 1. You got 4 of the same heroes of their own draft, and then obviously this Mirana pick this time around for coL. What did you think about this Blitz?
I think it's just a Z-Freak hero. More than anything, it synergizes really well with the Outworld Devourer. It's one of those NA flares where they're going to bring it out once in a while. We saw it a lot when the South American scene used to play it, but just kind of feels like something that will work out. And looking at this lineup, by the way, from Mineski, this feels like deja vu. That looks almost identical to Complexity's Game 1 lineup. With I think the only hero that was swapped around is the Axe
for the Bounty Hunter. Yeah, and it was exactly the same otherwise, yeah.
So, do you favor Complexity's lineup pretty heavily here?
I think so,
yeah.
Considering how Game 1 went with.
Yeah, I think everyone likes Complexity's lineup a lot. It's just got a lot of like very obvious synergies between the OD Mirana combination. You also have a Complexity with Tiny, which is one of the better teams with this combo. And I think Swindle's, like, I feel like his Beastmaster is better than most of his other heroes. In fact, he made a really good game in the Shanghai Major with one of his Beastmasters when he was facing up against Admiral Bulldog. And that was one of the most standout performances from him at that tournament. So I like everything about Complexity's draft, and I feel like Mineski have to do so much work with like the Slardar and the Bounty Hunter in this game to offset what is very clearly in my head a mid-game advantage for coL.
I see Jules. He'll get the D-Ward on the mid lane, as he's trying to do his best to harass the 2 of them. Bottom lane, Swindles. I mean, you talked about his Beastmaster. I mean, how hard is it going to be for him having to deal with both the Lich and the Slardar on this lane?
I think you still always do somewhat okay as a Beastmaster, just because you can always use your friendly companion Boar, and as long as you're not beating it away, the lane kind of goes somewhat decently for you, just because you can always go for the jungle and Iron Talon yourself. But this time around, Raging Potato should have a much better Blink Dagger timing than Swindles did in his first game, and they really need it. The common thing that we're seeing is whoever gets the jump off in the fights is consistently winning them, and that's why they had to sort of pick the Slardar, because they needed something that could instantly get in there and get the stun off.
Jules, I'm just going to play around here with Z-Freak, as obviously this gank is going to be spotted out, so should expect to see Ben just play a little bit safer on the Invoker, and nonetheless they'll still try and go with the Avalanche toss. Arrow's going to be coming in, but it's a couple of miles off point there, and Ben's going to be fine, walks back behind the tower, and that arrow from Z-Freak a little bit off.
I'm not sure if he expected like Limp to throw the Invoker backwards, and maybe that's why he threw the arrow where he did, but obviously not the combination that Complexity were looking for. You know, one of the kind of cool things about Mirana is that she does utilize the jungle, which usually Bounty Hunter is okay with. You like to be able to face up against junglers, you're very disruptive, but obviously Z-Freak, all he does is just shoot an arrow, kill a creep. That's literally all he does. So it's very unlikely the Bounty Hunter can do any kind of sapping like he normally does against heroes.
I sort of think this Wisp mid is going to be really effective, and Jules, the star of game number 1 in my opinion.
Oh, they've gone that cold snap. Yeah, straight in with Jules as well. One more touch should bring him low, but Hansket's going to be fine. Starts to pull up now. Limp frontlining quite a bit, but yeah, they play around it. And I mean, as you said, Jez, this IO pairing is going to be very hard for the Bounty to really catch out unless one of them is very much out of position.
If anything, I think it's time for him to head down to like the bottom lane even. We already have this Lich Slardar. If you can actually get a little bit additional slow, maybe he can get that kill. I'm just not sure he can get a whole lot done in this mid lane right now.
They just don't want to give the Invoker this disadvantageous matchup, because it's really easy for Wisp Tiny to just blow somebody up, especially with the Mirana roaming around. And I think this is the biggest danger right now, is that Z-Freak can just instantly go from top to mid, and they don't really have the best vision for him either. They've got this jungle awarded, but they haven't really had to rely on it.
The arrow's going to come in the top lane.
Setting it up with the Astral, but the timing's off! Z-Freak, unfortunately for the side of Complexity, missed timing that one, and Bog's going to be fine. I mean, at the moment, this matchup, 16 for 7 on Yodi, 10 for 1. I mean, do you expect the Doom to find this much CS in this pairing?
I think he's just, the only way he was able to get that much of CS is just early on in the laning phase. Otherwise, like, as the laning phase progresses, he just won't be able to do anything.
And there you go, you talked about Jules needing to rotate elsewhere. He's coming on the bottom, and that will secure Mineski first blood. So, as you said, take your eyes away from the mid lane and take your attention down to lanes that are going to be much more easier for Jules to punish.
If only Complexity could have gotten that first blood with the arrow at top.
That definitely should have been it. They would have had enough damage, just 2 or 3 hits of the Arcane Orb. The Doom doesn't really have a lot of armor, but Cap, I know as a bounty hunter player, oftentimes when you roam around, you don't find a lot of success in that mid lane, and that's where it kind of goes, the burden lies on you to make things a lot easier for the off lanes.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pressure at that point when you rotate all the way over to a side lane to make that gank work. And I think it was like Jules just breathed a huge sigh of relief. He's like, oh, that gank works. All right, I have boots. I can get Orb of Venom as well. And, you know, I've had some impact in the laning phase, essentially, because that's obviously what the bounty hunter does best.
And he's going to go with this as well. He's chasing this down, Raging, coming in, gets the crush off. There'll be a ball to try and help Swindles, but Jules, he's got that Arcane Ring, so he can come in hard with a few of these hits. And doesn't look like it's going to be hard enough. Swindles will be able to survive, and he does have a salve ready as well, so still maintaining his place in this lane. But actually, I didn't quite look at this again, a mid lane, because they're trying for Ben to get the arrow misses. They've got the toss damage. Ben, he's going to be able to get himself out here. One more touch, Z-Freak. He'll redeem himself there and allows them to find that kill in the mid lane.
I think he got tossed back in, and then he just turned and went for the Wisp, which was fine, but with the extra help of the Mirana, he wasn't able to escape that.
Yeah, and I mean, as I was going to say, mid lane, they're trying again for it, but he's got the heal here of the Scorched Earth, and it's going to be just enough. Brock able to walk that one off here with the regen. Bottom lane Swindles, giving it some against Jules. I mean, is this expected? I was looking at the Beastmaster CS, he's only got 4 CS, 5.5 minutes in, or is this totally expected for this lane matchup?
Pretty much expected. You know, he has to play really defensively. He's doing the right thing where he's constantly summoning out boars and putting it on the Slardar. The funny thing is, the boar's slow is actually so powerful that it offsets the sprint, the advantage that Raging Potato usually gets. So he's keeping himself alive for the most part, excluding the Bounty Hunter rotation. I think that's all he can really do.
Yeah, this mid lane is still pretty successful for Complexity. They were able to nab a kill on the Invoker. The Tiny is getting a reasonable amount of farm, and most importantly, this top lane is just dominating for them. The flip side, though, is that the Doom will almost always get farmed just by the nature of Devour, and this Beastmaster just isn't able to even contest this Slardar. And we talked about before the game as well how important it was for this Slardar to have a good game. And so far, he's already got treads, the Bastion could go with it, and once he gets the Blink Dagger, the timing for Mineski is just going to come online so quickly, especially with the track gold.
And as we can see, as you said, just getting more and more space. The mid lane matchup still slightly ahead here for the Invoker, which is certainly going to be very happy with, considering that he's been against both the Tiny and the IO lane. Jules, coming back down to the bottom, seeing if he can go for it. Swindles, though, continue to play it safe. Yeah, they can't quite get in. Jules coming a little bit too close to the tower there, so Swindles, he'll keep on his guard, and unlike we're going to see him die, but mid lane, trying to make a go on the Invoker. They've got the toss. There's your arrow this time, it's on point, and coL, I'll get the kill this time with the rotation from Z-Freak.
You know, I was just about to say, I feel like Bounty Hunter is taking the success of the first blood at bottom lane almost to the next extreme, where he's like, oh, well, I'm constantly going to go bottom. But no, Blitz pointed out, he needs to be in the mid lane to be able to help the Invoker against this combination. At the very least, if they go on the Invoker, they do this whole combination. As a Bounty Hunter, you need to be able to, like, step in front of the arrow or something. You know, stop this full stun combination with lots of nuke damage on one hero and prevent the Invoker from going down, because Complexity are winning essentially 2 of the 3 of their lanes, and putting more pressure on Swindles isn't doing anything.
Oh, just hanging around a little bit at the wrong time there. Nearly had the potential for a courier snipe. And mid lane going in again with the toss. Avalanche back. And he's got the help of Jules this time. He'll try and turn it a little bit with the cold snap on the hands. Get the shuriken as well. They'll get the IO, but they do lose the Invoker. Now Jules, he's got to run. He's got to hide. He can't, indeed. The walk's still on cooldown, and Complexity with a nice double there for Limp in the mid lane.
So huge for them to be able to get another kill, especially on the Bounty Hunter, but TPs are coming in.
Oh, off you go. Tossing him out. Jesse trying to close, but now Chessie coming in with a rotation, astraling up the man, but he can't go in for any more as the Chain Frost bounces. Will hold back the ODs. So they do keep the man safe there. Limp being bottled up by Handscan. Eyes on this one. Jules still hanging around this mid lane.
Unless something is going to dramatically change for Mineski, it seems like Hanskin's going to get a pretty well-timed level 6, and this is where the Bounty Hunter is going to be much less effective, whether it's the saving mechanism or relocate, or alternatively, he tries to set up a gank, and then all of a sudden the numbers advantage.
Top lane, straight in with the Doom. Now Jules with the rotation up top, Sun Strike. That's going to be off point, but Jules continues to chase. Limp with the rotation. Avalanche up to 2. They'll bring down the Mirana. Can they get themselves out? Boca is trying for the TP. Will he make it? No! no! The right clicks are enough now,
He might
Jules.
even get him with the balls.
He's got to dodge the balls, and he will. He'll be fine, but Limp now on a killing spree on the Tiny with these rotations.
Sort of think right now, Complexity, they're just waiting for Limp to get probably a Blink Dagger at this point. If you're not going to commit for the drums, that's most likely the direction that you're going to go for. And Chessie continues to have a really good game. I was just looking around the map. They've got the level 6 on the Beastmaster. You've got a lot of different ways to set up the IO relocate as well, with the Astral Imprisonment on top of the Roar. So Mineski, they're still waiting on this Blink Dagger on the Slardar, and that's the one downside of their lineup. They need the level 6 on the Bounty Hunter, they need the Blink Dagger on the Slardar before they can start making things happen.
I have no idea how Mineski actually stopped, essentially from dying, from getting picked off so many times. When you have such potent kill combinations, this isn't exactly a lineup that you want to be grouping up too much. Like, you know, Doom wants to be able to spend some time being able to devour and farm up. Like, he's not ready to be a full carry core just yet. Neither is the Slardar. He doesn't have his Blink Dagger. And obviously Invoker needs time with his Midas. So this, like, the next 5 minutes, I think, is a good window for Complexity to establish a lot of control.
Bok and Jesse, we've got to be careful, coL. They've got 4 up here. Look, we're coming straight round. We're on to Boka. In comes the rest of Complexity. The arrow is going to connect the throw back at Chain Frost, trying to hold them back. Limp comes in with a combo, bursts down the Doom. Jesse will be able to TP away, but it's another pick off for Complexity. And I get a tier 1 as well. More favorable action for this Tiny. 4-0-2 and 2.8k gold in the bank.
I mean, that was the most defensive position you could be as Mineski at that point in time, and it still didn't matter. Like, they got a good, like, zoning Chain Frost to try and keep heroes back, but it doesn't matter. They get the initial stun, follow up, there's just too much of it.
I think if you just look at Mineski's lineup, so much of this went into the laning phase. They had a Bounty Hunter, which is the laning hero, the laning winning hero, and you've got a Lich who kind of serves the same purpose. Like, these heroes don't do well if they're not dominating the lanes. The Bounty Hunter can transition a little bit better, but especially Lich, not a lot of defensive capabilities. Yes, you've got the Chain Frost, but Complexity's played around that really well.
Potato coming around the corner, gets jumped on by Limp and Hanskin. The missile strike, it's gonna miss though, and Raging Potato trying to sprint away. But he won't be able to escape. Let's see if Mineski could try and punish something in return. Hansken getting low, but he tethers across. He's going to be fine now. Chessie's the one coming in. Limp jumps back forward, gets the toss off. The arrow connects onto the Invoker. He's dusted up as well. There's no escape for this man. Double kill again for Limp. Picking up the action. It's just not stopping for this Tiny. And this Tiny getting seriously out of hand. Nearly 2k ahead of the highest net worth from Mineski. That Raging Potato Slardar.
It's nasty when the Tiny's able to get his Blink Dagger much faster than your Slardar.
It doesn't get easier either.
And again, another clean one for Complexity. Wicked sick on the Tiny. They've got to do something. I mean, how do they stop this blitz?
I sort of think they can't really. They put so much into this laning phase. If you just look at their lineup with the Bounty Hunter and the Lich like we talked about, this was meant to win 2 lanes definitively, and then you had a Doom that could eventually catch up with Devour, but they just haven't been able to make that happen, and so now everything has been delayed like crazy. Yeah, it should have been a clean laning phase into a Blink Dagger, just gets slowed down so much.
It comes, yeah, it's the 2 support choices from Mineski combined with the fact that Complexity just have really strong dual lanes that doesn't allow Lich or Bounty Hunter to abuse you too well.
Bottom lane, Potato. Line this one up. He's got the back elbow. Jules, he gets the amplify off in time, so they will have the vision. Jules trying to chase, but the ball slow. It's going to be enough for Swindles, able to walk this gank off.
Yeah, how absurd is that? Oh, that's cute. You get a 44% increase in movement speed via sprints, while Boar reduces 40%. So it doesn't do anything at all for the Slardar.
Yeah, and most importantly, you start to notice the landscape of the game where you give up this mid-tier 1 tower that you know is already really crucial. You gave up the top one, so Mineski effectively just lost control of their jungle. So now they're going to have to play in this Radiant side jungle, but that's so dangerous, especially with the Hawk up at all times. They're going to make the move again for Swindles, and you notice everything is shifted from Mineski. They're only going to play in this Radiant jungle because Limp with the Blink Dagger is just hunting now.
And they're desperately trying to find something in Mineski. Got eyes onto Chessie. No one really needs to follow up. Chessie at this point, fairly tanky as well with the treads. Drums complete. He's got 1600 in the bank. So not really the hero that they want or can jump onto.
The funny thing is, even if Mineski gets some like crazy good team fights or pickoffs or something, they're not even going to be getting, like, they're not even going to gain that much ground since Bounty Hunter is still not level 6 yet.
It's usually the timing for that, for the level 6. I think at latest, usually
about
people
10 in a
grab
good
it.
game?
Yeah, about 10 in a good game. I'd say 13 minutes in, it's a little bit later, and it's understandable just because they haven't been able to get kills, and they just don't have the kill potential.
And talking about the bounty, he's going to have to stay on the sidelines a little bit more, waiting for that 6 as the gank comes through. He tried to go for a bit of a tickle onto Z-Freak, but Mirana had the dust, and there's always going to be that relocate coming in for the turnaround.
That was kind of a bad example, but this is what we were talking about when it comes to the bounty hunter rotating around. Like, he wasn't trying to set up a kill or anything, but even if that was an attempted go on the Mirana, the relocate is just going to offset the numbers advantage that you think you have. They're going to pop a dust, they're going to run down whatever heroes they want, especially when Complexity already so far ahead. I mean, Lim's halfway through his axe already.
You noticed too?
Ridiculous tiny. 8-0-3, and nearly level 11 as well, just having that. At this point I get 14 minutes in. Jules, just coming in on the bottom, on his own at the moment, pings.
I think they're going to fight this.
Yeah,
They've got the slaughter on
Jules,
Blink Dagger.
he's revealing himself here, they'll jump forward and burst him down fairly low. Avalanche, that's going to kill him. Godlike Tiny now. And Jules, I mean, he keeps trying to poke at them, but every time Complexity just catching him out, and they've got more than enough burst to deal with his Tiny every time, even when they can't see him.
Dire's bottom tower has
Bottom, not really sure how Mineski decided to defend this. They have smoked up, and like we said, they want to take this fight because they got the Blink Dagger, and it doesn't get easier for them, Owen. There's no item that they're going to pick up next that'll really change their fortunes, aside from this Blink Dagger. The Starter doesn't have a better build-up item for this, so they're going to look for this, wait for their Bounty Hunter to respawn. Just manages to hit his level 6, but it does look like coL want to take this fight anyways.
They're using the moonlight to close back in. Make sure they're not scouted out. We'll see if they get anything here. Raging Potato. It's going to get off. Trying to throw a Sunstrike, get some intel. Hansken is going to get the dust onto Jules, and again, Jules got to be careful. Chessie gives him a touch and then backs off the arrow. Not going to connect this time, and it looks like Complexity just opting to back off here. I mean, Roshan is up. I mean, are we going to see either of these lineups try for the Roshan anytime soon?
I just think it's more likely that Mineski might go for it, if anything, just because they might just feel like they're pressured to.
Yeah, it's a desperation play, right? With the Slardar amplify damage, you can do it, but it's kind of one of those like high risk and relatively low reward plays.
This is the... we have to do something with the smoke.
If they can find a pick off, and then they just find that opening to go for it.
Yeah, Treckhold is still Treckhold. There have been many games where you watch a Bounty Hunter play, he has nothing, and then all of a sudden one fight goes well, 3 or 4 tracks happen, and you've got a mech, and suddenly you can team fight, but you need to get something out of this opening Blink Dagger, and they might just find
if
Hansken.
they find this indeed, straight up with the stun, into the Sunstrike, Hansken tethers away though! Oh, he's gonna live! No! Oh, that's gotta be painful for Mineski, and they can't chase that one down. Hansken just outplaying the courier though. Nearly getting taken down there by Swindle's bot. In fact, it's going to come straight back over, but bot, he chomps it up. Oh, arrow connecting. Nice. Can they, yeah, Complexity jumping in, combo onto the man on the potato. He's gone bot deep in now, but he can't make it. Astral comes in to cancel it. And looks like the 13 for 4 is going to turn into a 14 for 4. Another pick off for Complexity. And Mineski, when they try their best to look for some favorable action, Complexity just come back hard and smack them right back down.
D-Pick made 3 different plays there. First of all, he was behind them and hit him with the arrow, stalling up the retreat, right? So free pick off there. He also kills the courier on the way back, and then he also leaps forward like that and was what gave vision on the Doom. The Doom was in kind of like a cubby hole. He had to actually leap forward and give that vision for the OD to get that imprisonment where they secured the extra kill. Complexity, like, this is like the freest game at this point that you're going to experience in this tournament. You're so far ahead by 17 minutes. All you have to do is control yourself against a bounty and not give up track kills.
And here we go, looking for a track onto Jesse, jumping forward, chain thrust as well. The Sunstrike connects, he's going to Astral himself here. But Mineski, they should have a good shot at finishing this off, and yeah, indeed, as you said though, blinks out. Now blinking back in, as the Avalanche toss onto Raging Potato. Jules caught out as well, and it's 2 more for the Sonic Complexity. Z-Freak leaping in, Bot trying to get himself back to base, but the Arcane Orbs coming in hard. The Urn taking him down, the extra toss, chucks in the Necro unit, and it ends up crushing the Doom. Another one, and Limp now beyond godlike. This has been pretty much a textbook Tiny game. I mean, Limp, he must have had a game this good in a long time on the Tiny. We have seen him do great performances, but this has got to be one of the best he's had.
Yeah, especially in this tournament where they're just fighting to survive, 1 game away from being eliminated, especially after game 1 and 2 where it looked like coL's backs were against the ropes. This game just looks so dominant through and through, and Mineski, they don't have the personnel to fight anymore. Doom is a hero that you kind of want to chase with, you want to get that Doom off, but he can't really gap close on anybody, and Bounty Hunter just doesn't provide anything in these team fights.
They really are going to need a lot of that track gold from Jules to close the gap that's been created between these two sides. I mean, if you're Mineski Cap, what is the play? I mean, we saw them try and go for a smoke. It ended up getting turned around because the team fight from Complexity is so strong. I mean, is there a point where you're just waiting for Complexity to come to you and you're looking to try and kind of jump back in off the back of a bad engagement from coL?
No, I don't think there's any way for them to like still feel optimistic while playing passive. I think you're eventually just going to be stuck in this sort of atmosphere of fear and suffering and just kind of sitting back waiting for the game to end. Even though you do have the minuses, like that kind of plays into increasing the longevity of the game in some ways. If you look at Complexity's lineup though, it's just so much better. Like Will keeps on saying, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. Well, Limp, he's got a plate mail already. He's going to have an AC. The carry Tiny is going to be in full force, and it's not like he's the only guy they have to deal with. It's also the OD. I think Mineski just has to keep going, essentially. You just be like, all right, damn, all the kills that happened before, this time when we play aggressive, it's gonna work. Just stay positive.
I mean, Blitz, in an ideal world, if you're Mineski, you're looking at that Tiny, he's on 12-0-4. Oh, that thought evoker Jules, he's been arrowed up. And again, this bounty getting caught out. But talking about bounties, who do you want to be getting that money for if you're Mineski? Who could really turn the game around if they're able to get that final touch onto a Tiny?
I'm not even sure, because the Slaughter doesn't really benefit from having another item here. It's not going to change anything. The Invoker's kind of in a similar situation.
It's go time!
Oh, they can't quite get the Doom, they jump in, they get a crush, amplifies as well with the Doom, the Sunstrike, everything being thrown out, who's going to get the money? Oh! Payday here for the Doom! 1k gold straight up for Bot, and he's up to 2.1k. Now we talked about what the big item could be. If you're the Doom, you've just got 2k, what are you buying?
Sort of think even a Blink Dagger would be okay here, and
if they could find more, talking about the Blitz jumping in there, Reggie Potato, and they'll get a second! Another big kill at the same time. Complexity, they will find a tier 2 on the bottom. But Mineski finding two very, very big kills there for the side.
They're going to just take this tower, and they're going to have to back up, especially against the Necrobooks.
I don't think we've talked about the OD in a while, but this is where I think that Blitz is totally on point with the Blink Dagger pickup, is that the OD is going to be a threat, and somehow bo3 has to address that. If you can blink in, take the OD out of the fight.
Oh, he's going in so hard there, and Z-Freak and Chessie are on the sidelines. They do know Chessie's there, they've got the trap vision, but Raging Potato doesn't seem to care. He's still hanging around here. Jules trying to come in, and Doom is coming through as well, but they won't be able to catch them out. TP away there from the Beastmaster, and top lane Ben was just pushing it in, but pushing himself away from that Tiny. And still Roche is there. Neither team's trying to attempt for it as of yet. I guess if you're Complexity, you don't really need to, and I guess if you're Mineski, it's a little bit too risky still to try for a Roche.
I think if you take the Roshan fight and it goes badly, the game actually just ends. Because you give up the Roshan, you probably lose 2 or 3 heroes minimum, probably even more than that, because what Complexity's lineup does really well when you've got this double blink setup is they chase you down, they will not let you get away. And right now, Mineski are in a somewhat okay position. Your Doom is a BKB now. The Invoker continues to get a lot of items. He's got the travels now, has the point booster, he's tanking up himself. It's just that Complexity, they have so many different ways to approach these fights.
Yeah, soon it's going to be Blink Dagger on the Beastmaster as well, and then you have like a third kill combo, which is just Swindles and his Necronomicon plus the Blink Initiation. So
with the smoke into Roche,
they have to contest.
But this, it just doesn't look like they're in a position to do so. 4 spread around the mid lane. Roche gonna fall relatively quickly here to the punches of Complexity, and they'll get it. 3 Roshan on 3 Aegis here. As Mineski just not in a position to fight, and yes, with the warning round, it was of course a smoke in from Complexity. So Mineski just went away.
You're seeing why Beastmaster OD is such a strong combination, though. He gets the Necronomicon, he's giving out the auras, and OD, he's right-clicking so quickly. They made very short work of that Roshan. Now he has an Aegis. And Mineski have to avoid fights for the next 5 minutes. They can't fight into an Aegis OD, I don't think.
I mean, part of the problem, though, is that they just don't really flash farm very quickly either. They don't have a hero like the Nature's Prophet that can safely just split the map up and find vision for them. It's like you said before the Roshan fight, they kind of just have to fight. It sucks, and it feels like there should be a better option, but there's really not.
This just comes back to more of a draft problem than anything else. You shouldn't ever have a draft that pigeonholes you this much, where you have to do extremely well in the laning phase in order to stop Complexity from running over you and still maintaining a better late game as well.
Jules, he's just gonna scout.
Has to just be so careful about revealing himself around these guys.
They've done such a good job, by the way, Owen, of constantly getting him whenever he does anything. Like, if he pops out of Invis for half a second, they have dust.
On him. Who's coming in? Again. Chessie just getting pushed. We'll see if Mineski want to do anything to react to this, but still Mineski a little bit split up. You've got Invoker down the bottom pushing it out, top lane Raging Potato on his slider trying to work around this top lane. And the rest of them in the base. And see what the smoke from Swiddles and Z-Freak if they do find anything, but...
So, BKB on Doom? Are you down?
What other item is really going to do it for him?
I mean, if it wasn't the Blink Dagger, I think BKB... It was...
It does
item
take
it had to be.
Yeah, it takes away a lot of the damage from Complexity.
Yeah.
You can't burst him with the hits from the Tiny. The Arcane Orb suddenly doesn't do anything to you. You still have to run into a lot though. There's the Roar available.
Part of the problem, I think, is that he's going to be lacking in damage because he went for the Max Devour build, which is fine, dude. Like, he had to get farm, right? But he doesn't have the maxed out Infernal Blade yet. So if you're popping that BKB, you run in Doom, you need to be able to output some sustained damage, and it really comes from Infernal Blade. Otherwise, Complexity is just going to be like, okay, you doomed someone, but we're just going to ignore you from here on out while you're BKB'd and just deal with the rest of your team. So he needs to actually be more of a constant threat than just his ultimate, and that's going to require 2 more levels where he can get that really low cooldown.
As you can see at the moment, just Mineski staying up in their base, being very careful about any movements outside of it. Jules sometimes coming out on the bounty to get a bit of vision, bit of intel here for the team. Complexity just standing strong. We can see at the bottom already trying to push in that third lane so they can have all the lanes pressured against the side of Mineski before. I mean, I'd imagine we'll see a high ground push anytime soon. Surely Complexity is strong enough by now. Or are they waiting for anything? Is there still another big item that they'd like to have to be super secure?
At the same time, I don't know, Blitz, what's your philosophy? It feels like it's never bad to wait when you know you have super late game.
I'm not really sure what Mineski is even supposed to do in a situation like this. I feel like coL just like, they buy a gem, they can sit outside the base forever, rack up gold everywhere. They know that Jules won't ever leave the base, and then eventually maybe Mineski gets fed up enough where they're just like, we have to make something happen on the map, but it's just a rough situation because no matter how you twist things, Mineski are kind of in a hole right now.
Yeah, if Complexity do what Blitz is talking about, just starving them out, the only play Mineski has is pushing out S5 with a gem of their own and trying to take away vision from Complexity, or smoking. And both of those options, like, you just have so few smokes at this point in time. They only have 1 left in their shop, and a gem, obviously.
Raging. Has to be careful. Very, very close to having the money for his own BKB on the slot up. That would have been a very painful death.
They do have the Axe, though. Ben-Hur is picking up the Ags on Invoker. That hero is one of the toughest to push high ground against. That is a small little bright point in Mineski's current situation.
The problem right now with Mineski trying to go for a smoke is that the lanes are constantly pushed in, so it would honestly be the most obvious thing ever. When you're going to smoke, a bunch of creeps are hitting your towers, you're not defending any of them. You just can't leave your base in a situation like this. Eventually they're going to wait for the OD to run out of the Aegis, then maybe they make a move or something like that, and they hard commit to something, but at the current phase of the game, they just can't really leave their base, and like we talked about, Z-Freak immediately buys a gem for his team, because he realizes, let's take away all the vision in the game, and force Mineski to just leave their base out of frustration.
And look at that. They don't need to use the Aegis, they don't try and push high ground. They're okay with just controlling the map, and this can go on really for as long as Complexity want to, but most likely they're just going to farm up for another 5 minutes, take the next Roshan, and that will probably be a high ground time, because they'll have enough items on the Tiny that he's a constant threat standing on the high ground, and then the OD. What do you think you go for here, like Scythe?
I don't even think it matters too much.
Yeah.
You go for the moon shards of your own just to pump out some damage. They have enough ways to save them. They're gonna grab the Lotus Orb anytime soon on the Mirana 2, who's got the Midas and is just steadily farming away. Right now, Mineski, there's probably some weird small timing window where they can make something happen, but there's not a whole lot that they can wait for. It's like you've got 1200 gold on your Lich, he's not really waiting for anything, your Invoker just picked up the Aghanim Scepter, maybe, I don't think there's any way he's gonna get the Octarine Core. Doom maybe can still afford something.
It's just so sad that Mineski don't have the kind of threat that forces the OD into, like, getting a BKB. You know, because at least in those scenarios, it slows down the OD's like heavy glass cannon damage that he's able to output. But here in this game, like, he doesn't really need a BKB at all. Like, he might get doomed, but that's okay. As you said, they've got plenty of ways to be able to save him, and he could just go raw damage. So if at any point in time, if Mineski slip up in the team fight and don't address him with the Doom, or if it's not the Doom, heavy disables and focusing him down, he's gonna single-handedly kill everyone.
Yeah, he could still go for a Lincoln's too against the Doom.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With the pace of the game right now, it doesn't really matter because they're just getting steadily further and further ahead. If you just look at the net worth graph, it is just slowly ticking up over time. They can't leave their base. The XP is following a similar trend, and Complexity done such a good job of controlling the map up. Everyone just continues to farm out everywhere right now. And maybe that's an opening for Mineski if they can catch 1 or 2 heroes out.
Yeah, this is your point where you try and push out the lane just enough where maybe you can go for a smoke and, you know, push out and find some sort of aggressive pickoff or something. But as we see with the Manta from the Tiny, like pushing out that top lane a bit, like the lanes are constantly right next to the tier 3 tower.
They're going for a smoke here. So look on the bottom, just they're coming out of the base, Mineski. And
notice how the bounty hunter's showing himself at bottom.
yeah.
Like that's actually pretty important to actually have heroes on the map. So Complexity don't see the obvious. There are 0 heroes on our mini map. Why? But
yeah, it's so hard for them to do it though. And okay, Tiny's already found the bounty. Swindle, Snowball get taken down by Limb. Looking to come in. The BKB's been popped by Bok. Outrage player Bok trying to walk into this, but the physical damage seems to be too much. He will get the Doom out onto Jesse. Means come through from Ben, trying to scatter Complexity. But Lim's just chasing this one down, seeing what else he can find. Avalanche onto Ben. He will still be able to walk it off. It's a 2-for-1, and I guess on the plus, considering the situation, it's not awful for Mineski. They actually managed to find a kill in return.
it's just so demotivating when you see your Doom pop his BKB and he's like, alright guys, this is the fight, I'll Doom up the OD, and he just gets smashed by the Tiny's physical damage because he has no armor.
How can they deal with this Tiny, as you said? Raging, just laying down the Amplify. But Hansken just sitting there fueling up the Tiny from the back lines. The fort will come out. They will have the Doom back up in 10 seconds. Then popping the Avalanche, looks to jump in, crush again, but there's the defensive Astral, the Frost. Will bounce back, but Complexity they scatter. Limp blinks himself away. Mineski, can they try and chase down someone on this? You can see Jules already heading in, seeing what he can find out for the side. Looking at Z-Freak, looking at Limp, looking at Hansken. And they're just playing it safe. They managed to get another track out. And they do hold still, but Mineski, it's just getting harder and harder, as you say. And I don't know, they need something really spectacular to be able to bring this one back at this position.
I mean, all it takes is like Complexity. They decide to drop like 1 item apiece, then maybe the game gets somewhat even. Like if they just decide we don't need Blink Daggers anymore.
Someone dropped his Yule Scepter, something happens to it.
And then Banner's out onto the towers, jumping from Raging, in comes Bok as well. Actually, yeah, Bok's gonna be the one Astral. Raging Potato coming back in, Ben dropping the combo onto Lim. Lim tosses by Raging Potato, the roll coming through as well, and Bok stuck in the middle of this one. Bok getting hammered down, and he's got Lim falling low, but not low enough. Gets relocated out, he's gonna be fine. Mineski once again losing the Doom this time. Nothing in return. Tiny's gonna be coming back in, refueled by the IO. They'll clear up the mid lane racks of Complexity. Finally being able to break this base, 21-7. Arax favoring them as well. They'll move to the top, look for more Mineski. Can they really do anything to stop this? And Lim just jumps straight in onto Raging Potato. He's gone! Sanity's glimpse is dropped by Jesse. Burst down the Potato. Jules has to scamper back to base. It's a second set of racks. GG is called. Mineski try as hard as they might, but Complexity show us that here they're the superior team and they'll be moving on in this tournament. It was a strong showing by Mineski, but they're going home, Cap.
A big drafting win for Complexity here to round out their game number 3. They are going to be able to stay alive in this tournament, but I do want to point out that Mineski had some bright parts in this tournament. They had game number 2 against Team Liquid. The first half of that game was a decent run by them. Game 2 against Complexity as well. Obviously, they took that game, and that was huge. So I think there are still some bright spots to see, but obviously Complexity looking